Welcome to Spearo Diaries with Laura and Elise, two Kiwi mermaids talking about spearfishing and ocean adventures.
In this episode, we dive deep with a Kiwi artist in Spearo, based in the Kapiti Coast near Wellington.
Tim Lee is known for combining artistry with a respect for marine life, using real fish for gyotaku prints and expertly detailed pencil works of ocean creatures. A man who is so humble about his incredible talent and pursuit of perfection in his art.
We really enjoyed connecting with him and discussing the parallels between time in the ocean and his creative process. He is a very thoughtful, fun and insightful human who truly cares about the natural world. If you haven't seen or heard about Tim's incredible work, please check it out on Instagram or Facebook under the handle @TimLeeArt.
We really hope you enjoy this chat with Tim as much as we did. Creative, ocean celebrator, and pursuer of perfection, Tim Lee. Let's get into it.
All right. Well, welcome along to Spearo Diaries. Tim, bloody great to have you on here. And we've harassed you enough for, I think, probably on and off for a year. And we have you on.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Right, seriously, thank you for making time and letting us book you in. Busy life and jumping on to talk to us. We're pretty excited about this. So, yeah.
No, all good. Pumped.
I think we also asked you a year ago if we could interview you when we were watching you do gyotaku at Mystery Creek at the Boatfish Dive Expo again. And it's taken us a little while to get organised.
I forgot to mention that, actually. That is so... Me and Elise obviously met you properly last year's expo, which we talked about on Sam Wild's episode recently. But then I saw you again this expo and, sat around listening to you and Darren and Jackson and everyone yapping. So I kind of got a bit more of an insight into Tim life. And that did jog my memory that I was like, we need to get you on here because, it's just a really, really different perspective having someone who's a Spearo and an artist. And we, wanted to get amongst that. So we have a bajillion questions for you and we'll see if we can get through them all without you getting bored of us yapping.
Be careful because I tend to yap a lot as well. So
that's good. It's good. That's what
that
we're here
kind
for.
Of person.
Well, even though I originally thought you were from Wellington and Kapiti, I have delved into the Tim Lee bio and after talking to you at the expo, figured out that you actually hail from Taupo. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. Furthest place away from the ocean for Spearo.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was going to lead into is that, is this true in my research that we found out that you grew up with your family running a fish and chip shop in Taupo?
That's right. Yeah, they ran a place called Grasshopper Chip Bar for about 40 years. Sold that and started up another one up the main drag called Eurasia. Was born and bred, not born, but definitely raised in a fish and chip shop out the back while my parents slaved away. And as I grew older, I started getting on the tools and that was my first taste of working life was in a fish and chip shop in a Chinese restaurant. Yeah.
Very interesting with the Spearo entry, I guess, because we have a few questions obviously around like your passion and your art and how you make Spearo related art. But I did think it was really interesting that it's a freshwater lake, which, as we all know, there are the catfish cull and things like that with freshwater species for spearfishing and freshwater stuff. But you're in a fish and chip shop and like you say, almost the furthest that you could be from the ocean. So I just thought that must be a really interesting entry into maybe seeing fish and understanding and seeing those fish posters in the fish and chip shop and stuff like that, but not actually living that close to the ocean. So I guess my first question is pretty much is how did you kind of enter your journey into spearfishing from there?
Yeah, well, it is you are pretty detached when you are looking at pictures of fish and not actually experiencing them firsthand. But, the first sort of taste, I guess, of that sort of world was growing up down in Taupo down the road was the Waikato River, and we grew up spinning with the trout, and we'd just take our rods down after school every day and try to catch rainbow trout, and if we did catch one, we'd take it home, and I'd be the one fascinated by all its anatomy and poking the eyes and touching the gills and opening the fins and just being mesmerised by all its anatomy. And so die-hard trout fisherman in my early days. But as we grew up, my uncles take us to a place called Te Kaha up the East Cape, and every school holidays we'll go out with them, and they are hardcore outdoorsmen. You know, they live in the bush, and they're pretty full-on deer hunters and snapper fishers. So they would take us away in school holidays for trips up there, and that's when we got the first taste of salt water. And we'd just go fishing off the boat and snorkeling around the rocks. And I think the first fish I speared, like most people, was a red muki with the prider. And
Nice.
I was probably 7 or 8 at the time, but that's my first taste of spearing.
It's a big fish for a 7 or 8-year-old.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I've still got the photos of it. And, you know, when back in the day when people used to print off photos and put them in albums, I've got those
cool.
photos.
Yeah, good. We'd love to see those.
I always remember watching my brother Doc be able to dive deeper than me, chase after a pool dive, and I was like, oh, God, what do I have to do to get that good? But, yeah, it wasn't until quite a few years down the track when I moved to Wellington and pursued my tertiary education and was working in hospitality down here that I decided one day to invest in a ocean hunter kit and just started getting stuck into it on my own accord. And that was a pretty late start to that. I think I was in my mid-20s when I first got into it. But just in my downtime when I wasn't working or wasn't studying, I'd be on the south coast chasing butters and, you know, just trying to get the hang of it. And that's when I fell in love with it. Yeah.
And butters are a beautiful fish. Like, you know, if you're going to have some fish to start, I think they're really cool. They're probably one of the coolest fish, especially because they're such a spearfishing fish.
Yeah.
No, that was cool. So, I mean, you still started out earlier than me and Elise, by the way. So if you think that's old,
that's true.
30s. It's not that old.
Never too late.
Yeah. Hit them with our
And when you
canes one day.
say you're studying, what did you study in Wellington?
I studied a bit of everything. I came down here to study design, industrial design, and that was the plan. But then everyone would say how hard it was to get a job. Like, oh, so I dabbled a bit with fine art at Massey University, and wanted to learn how to paint. But all I'd do at that time was teach you how to think and think a bit differently and conceptually, which was interesting. But I wanted to learn how to paint, and I wanted to learn how to use colour. And that's kind of the reason why I don't use colour, is because I never learned how to use colour.
That's interesting you say that.
Yeah, I was just when
Did you know I studied fine arts at Massey as well?
Sorry?
Did you know I studied fine arts at Massey as well?
I think you may have mentioned that to me.
Yeah. Still can't draw for shit. Still can barely paint and draw. Like,
don't get me wrong.
I think we just talked about ideas and feelings for about 5 years and paid a lot of money to do that. So
yeah, no harm to Massey. Like, it was just a good life experience and good character building. And as alongside all my university studies, like, all the work experience I had was hospitality from my parents. So I just kept working in kitchens. And after I got my degree, it was like, what experience do I have? All work experience I've got is in hospo and working in kitchens. So I just kept doing that. So I chefed for about 10 years.
Wow.
And then I decided to put my degree to use, and the only way I could do that was through teaching. So I did a grad dip in secondary school teaching, and then went and taught at a couple of different high schools down here for about 10 years.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how we ended up yapping, because that's the same thing I did. Went to art school, did my high school postgrad dip, ended up being a high school art teacher. But as well, I think it's quite interesting, your angle, because we had research that you were a chef, and I thought that's really interesting. You know, you've got your Spearo side, your cuisine and food kind of interest, which does have a lot of parallels to art, I reckon, anyway. And then your creative side. So having all those kind of aspects of your life is, I think, just like a really interesting way that maybe you approach your spearfishing, and the way you approach creating art that maybe appeals to fishing and spearfishing people, which is quite a different thing to maybe what, art that appeals to just your average Wellingtonian or fine artist person. So yeah, I'm real interested to see how you fill us in on some of those aspects. But so I guess your art journey, my question was going to be, how did your art journey kind of begin as well? But you've pretty much covered that, where I guess you've grown up and headed off and pursued the things
Well,
that
it's
you enjoy
funny
doing.
because, I mean, I've always drawn, if you talk to any artist, they're probably always going to say that they drew as a kid. And I always drew as a kid, and I drew all throughout secondary school. And when I went to university, man, I was pretty messed up in terms of my artistic vision. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I dabbled with heaps of different styles and made some pretty stupid landscapes and some pretty dumb abstracts and all sorts of bits and bobs. And hopefully they don't see the day of light, though there are a couple of those floating out there somewhere, which I hope the owners have burned. But yeah, like as a kid, like it's quite ironic when I started drawing what I'm drawing now. Every school holidays, when I take like a big type, or like my parents were, as most parents are hoarders of their kids' school artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd find all these drawings of fish that I was doing when I was a kid, of like stupid drawings of trout chasing lures and marlin chasing little baby mahi and stuff like this. And it's so ironic that I've just gone full circle back to what I was doing as a kid. You know, I was like obsessing over fishing magazines in the lead up to going to Te Kaha. And I'd be drawing these fish like crazy, and my brother would be making like rigs and tackle and pre-baiting pilchards onto hooks and playing with them in the bath to see how they swam. And we're just so obsessed about these trips to Te Kaha. And we were just absolute nerds when it came to the ocean. So yeah, it's just seems like a natural progression that I've ended up doing what I was always into, you know?
Nothing wrong with being an ocean nerd.
Mm.
And just so you know, it's not true. All parents do not keep all your art stuff. I was at the dump. This is a good story. I was at the dump one day with my mum and my brother, unloading some of the big black sacks. And
you can't do stuff.
as one of the big black sacks hit the pile, it bust open, and I saw all the paintings that I had done for my mum for like Christmas and birthdays. So sometimes people just need to clear it out. So I think you can be proud in the fact that it is not just all parents. It's just parents with people with good art.
Oh, that's when you need a fireplace to get rid of the evidence, I think, as a parent.
Yeah.
Exactly. Rookie
Yeah.
parent mistake.
Yeah.
Tim, we have a part of our podcast which is the Dare Diary dive day entry. There's a lot of D's in that. Do you have a day out on the ocean, whether it's spearfishing, like fishing on the line, or just being on the boat, that's really memorable and stands out to you?
Yeah, there's every day is memorable, you know. But it's funny because after listening to Sam's podcast with you, and he talked about paper nautilus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always a dream of mine to find a fully intact nautilus shell.
Mm-hmm.
I thought there'd never be a either to find one in Wellington. And this is kind of a funny yarn. Like a side yarn from this is that I knew I wanted to draw a nautilus. So I was like, this post came up on Facebook about some nautilus shells that washed up in Seaton. And it was only a little one, like a tiny little one, but it still had the octopus on the side of it. So
Wow.
I jumped on Facebook and said, oh man, I'd love to come and photograph that nautilus. Can I come and borrow it for a day or something like that. And my partner went and picked it up from their house and brought it up to school. I was still teaching at the time, and there was this tiny, tiny little nautilus shell like this, and the octopus, yes, was still inside, but it looked like just haggard old squid bait. It was so deteriorating. So I dressed it all up and photographed it and took my reference photos and was real pumped about drawing it. And then I got a message on Instagram from this girl, and she goes, "Hey Tim, it's such and such. I hear you've got my nautilus that you're looking after. Please take good care of it, because I'm looking forward to putting it on my shelf or whatever. Just so you know, I used to go to school with you on Taupō, and I went to a party at your house, and I vomited, and you had to hose me down in your backyard with a hug." And I was, I don't remember that, but okay.
Yeah. That's like etched into a memory forever, eh?
What a world. But anyway, like we had a couple of good days of weather a couple of years ago, and I ended up finding a couple of broken shells in this place called Wairua Bay out Kapiti, and went back the next day and found a couple of whole shells, and I was like, "Fizzing."
Oh my goodness.
And then I found a cluster of them still alive. Yeah. Still had the octopus in them, still had their arms wrapped around the shells, and they were getting smashed to buggery by all the reef fish. They'd just been pushed in by the currents and couldn't correct their buoyancy or whatever they're up to. So they're destined for death. But so that was pretty gnarly experience. Another trip that always stand out for me was down in Kaikoura. And we just jumped in the water off the motorway with a mate of ours, Alistair, who's down there. And it was the most amazing day of just swimming with duskies all day long, dusky dolphins. It was like, you'll never get sick of seeing those. It was almost a point that they were just around the whole time, and you're like, okay, go away now because we want to actually go shoot a fish or something. But just, man, it was magical. Absolutely magical just seeing dozens of these dolphins. They aren't big dolphins, but, tower over you in terms of size.
Cool. And they were swimming and interacting with you? Like,
yeah,
underwater?
like within touching distance. It was just unbelievable. And I mean, people swim with dolphins all the time, but it's those sort of experiences that will stick with you forever, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. There's swimming with dolphins, and then there's like swimming with dolphins when they're actually like a wild pot just comes in all around you, and like you can reach out your hand to touch them, but they just always just move slightly out of the way, and they're like, how do you know where you are? It's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
it does seem
incredible.
pretty casual, eh? Like, it seems casual to be like, oh, saw dolphins today, but me and Elise had a really like legit like got out of the water, and I like felt life changed by it. Like we were actually trying to go spearfishing, and there was no fish around. Is it Pito Bay where we were?
Yeah, it was at a Peter on your birthday.
And there was three of us that ended up getting in back in the water because we've been spearfishing, because we were fish were on the way home and walking on the beach. And a whole pod came in quite shallow and just surrounded us all for probably like a good 40 minutes. I don't know how many there were, but they didn't touch us. But we were like, we could have stood up. It was that shallow, and they were just surrounding the three of us. It was honestly, yes, like you said, like and it seems chill, like dolphins, but like being that close to creatures and feeling that kind of energy and just it's pretty amazing.
Fills your cup, huh?
Yeah, especially duskies. That's pretty special. Holy hell. That's very cool. Are they like they're like the little guy? They're not like the little guys like Maui, but they're like smaller than a bottlenose?
Yeah, way smaller than a bottlenose.
And they're like black and white.
But way bigger than a Maui.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kaikoura, man, it's such a cool place.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome.
I had to Google a picture of them just then because I couldn't wait. They're the cute little ones with a lot of like white brush strokey looking bits on them, and I've definitely never seen one of those, so that's very sick.
Yeah. No, they're awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
It's cool that both and I'm not shocked with sort of how the approach of your outlook on fish and how you capture them in your art. I'm not kind of shocked that two of your experiences are more about the creatures and the amazement of those interactions. It's not like, nothing wrong with being proud of shooting fish, but it's always interesting. We ask people the same question and we get all these different answers, and my brain just started whizzing into like asking you questions around, does your art process change when you do things like capture things that are either already dead, because it's kind of a waste that you wouldn't try and capture something like those shells if they've already, basically started decaying and that kind of thing. So it's a really cool aspect of, celebrating different ocean experiences without having to say that it was necessarily just about the fish you took home or the spearfishing, but more about, like you're saying, seeing those rare things and rare creatures. And
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been plenty of, shots and that I'll always remember, and partly I always remember them because of the art I've made from them, I mean, everyone photographs their fish, and that's sort of like documenting it, but I'm just documenting it in a different way.
Yeah.
And it just
do you remember the moment you started doing that? Like, I know you said you took a photo of the red muki, but like, do you remember when you were like, you probably felt a need, I imagine. Were you like, I need to make something, a drawing or a print of fish, like when that started happening for you?
Nah, like I don't think I've ever I'm not aware of that need to have to do it. Like it's not like a drive that I have to create something. It's how it's rolled out. And maybe there's something down, but it's that I'm just completely oblivious to. But I don't get itchy if I haven't drawn for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. Not like diving or hunting,
I was going to say, what about diving and hunting then? And I didn't click that you were a deer stalker as well. So that's interesting. We did ask some people about you, and I've now processed that they were talking about you being a normal hunter, not a spearfishing hunter, with their comments. So it's interesting.
A normal hunter.
I shouldn't say normal hunter. I grew up deer stalking
all
too.
us
But
abnormal hunters in the ocean.
but people say, such and such when they're hunting. I was presuming this person was talking about spearfishing, but I realised now they were talking about deer stalking. Because my next question was going to be, what is your favourite part about spearfishing? Or, favourite place you've dived and things like that. But you've kind of led into some of hinted at, I guess, that maybe experiencing those interactions with creatures might be one of your favourite parts, would you say?
I mean, there's plenty of places I would love to go and want to go back to. I've been quite privileged to have been able to dive in some quite magical places, which I still don't take for granted. But yeah, what was the question again? My favourite place.
Sorry, I waffled into about 3. I said, what is your favourite part about spearfishing?
Favourite part. I like that as soon as you jump in the water and you're holding your breath, that you can't think about anything else that's going on in your world. It just completely detaches you from it. And that's something you can't get from a lot of other hobbies, I think. That just, and the ability to go down and hold your breath and do it effectively to try and get down to wherever you're going or to hunt whatever fish you're hunting. You can't do that effectively whilst you're worrying about what's going on in your workday or what's happening in the world, So the way that spearfishing removes you from the turmoil of our busy lives in the 21st century is priceless. And so that aspect I think is my favourite thing about it.
Nice.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was just trying to let you carry on talking, because me and Elisa often interpret or explain the same kind of feeling, but in our own words. And Elisa talks about it like she loves to hold her breath and stuff like that. And I talk about
to be able to do the sport
out of everything, and
to be able to go spearfishing, you have to be able to relax.
Yeah. I mean, I used to train with the lazy seals here in Wellington.
Okay.
And that would be on Tuesdays and Thursdays at like 6 o'clock down in Freiburg called Oranta Bay. And, you just finished work. You pop on down there and you're training to get whatever goal you're after. But, just jumping in the water and holding your breath and swimming 30 meters, 60 meters or whatever. And all you have to focus on is the consistency of your kicks, or the technique of your no fins. And you feel so amazing when you walk out of that pool. Just you can't get that from anything else, I don't think. It's amazing.
No, yeah. Even normal swimming, like I went to training last night for diving with a similar group to your group here, and I was so grumpy before I went. I was like, I can't really be bothered going, but I was leading the session, so I went along, and I walked out and I was like, I'm actually like in a completely different state.
Yes.
And then I went to normal swimming today, like just lap swimming, and it's different. Like you're in the water, but there's something so different about that being underneath and kind of losing all concept of other noises and other thoughts and life priorities, as opposed to maybe even just doing laps on the top. Like it's pretty special.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's certainly days that diving sucks. Yes, and you get rid of your shivers and
Yeah.
the water's heavy and it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
You just wish you were at home.
Some days feel a little harder, eh?
It's only a few days like that, yeah.
Do you get into the same zone with your art, like with when you're diving, where it's almost like just the thoughtless, like it's sort of thoughtful, like with what you want to achieve, like in a dive, but like zoning into it and getting into the flow? Do you find that when you're drawing or when you're printing, you get into the flow like that?
Yeah, for sure. There's certainly days that I don't get into the flow, but when I do, it's a good thing, and I try to stay there for as long as I can. But the reality of being a full-time artist is that you got to put a lot of different hats on. So drawing doesn't actually happen that often for me.
Yeah.
It does at times, but it's very inconsistent. But like I was saying earlier, like I don't necessarily feel an itch that needs to be scratched every single day that I have to draw. It's more about if I've got looming deadlines or something like that. So I'm a creature of habit and I love to procrastinate. And I'll just that procrastination is my most powerful tool to get shit done. So sometimes I'll go hardcore and just draw for months, and other times I might not touch a pencil on paper for half a year. But working on it and trying to be more consistent with it, because I know that it does put me in a good space. Probably different to the way the water does. Like I don't think it gives me that real holistic buzz, but it does in some way that I just haven't really am fully yet aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Getting in that water though, eh?
Holistic buzz. Holistic buzz is I haven't heard that phrase, so I like that.
Yeah, well, that's diving, isn't it? It ticks so many boxes.
Yeah. Fills your
So
soul, fills your freezer. It's great.
It's peaceful. I find art a little stressful sometimes, that performance and creation.
Oh, totally. Like I have days that I'm just, I'm butting heads with myself because I can't make progress. And some days I'll pick up a pencil and only draw for 10 minutes or even 1 minute. And it's just about making a dent in the overall goal. So I've always said to myself, even if I put a couple of marks on paper, it's one step towards that endpoint. And some days I'll draw for 8 hours, and other days I'll only draw for 1. It's just so irregular and so inconsistent. There's so many factors at play that determine how long I draw for, or if I'm in the mood. But like I said, there's heaps of other facets to my overall artist life, I guess, that take time and take energy, and that a lot of people don't know about and aren't aware of.
Like marketing and getting yourself into exhibitions and
yeah, for sure. Putting your marketing hat on, putting on your event planner hat,
okay,
put on your accounting hat.
Yeah.
No, that's some of those feel like work to me, but the overall creating of my drawings and my frames and my gyotaku, none of that ever feels like work. It just feels like what I do. And
Yeah.
I wake up, I mean, a huge to-do list, and it's like, it's all good because it's just what I do,
Yeah.
you know? But when I've got a dozen invoices to get through and, a whole lot of ordering or, then that is like, then that's when I get a bit annoyed.
Yeah.
And sometimes those things take the back seat and I focus on my drawing or go diving or go hunting. And there's a bit of imbalance. So, yeah, it's the way it works.
I totally think that with procrastinating, like you were saying, it's all part of getting to the end goal. Like, if I have a deadline, procrastinating all the way up into the deadline helps me smash that out in the last like hour that I have.
Oh,
Maybe.
yeah.
Looking at your drawing, the kinna, oh my goodness. Like I mean, I enjoy drawing, and painting, but like I look at that and I wouldn't even know where to start. It is so detailed. Like, yeah, is that like, do you think that's probably the hardest piece you've done as far as detail goes, or is there other ones that,
They've all, everything I draw all has its own challenges.
okay,
And if I pick up a new piece that's a certain species of fish that I haven't drawn yet, I often have to do a lot of figuring out to try and determine how I'm gonna render the scales or how I'm gonna shade them or get those particular textures that I'm after.
mm,
So there's always a lot of learning and unlearning that's going on. And at the same time, I've drawn some species more than others, and I'll draw one, for example, the spiny rock lobster, and I'll be finished, and then there'll be this scratch that I have niche that it's not good enough, and then I have to draw another one, and then another one, and another one, and every time I draw it again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm tossing up everything I did last time to try and do it better.
oh my
So
God.
yeah, it's crazy. I'm my own worst enemy.
Whereas everyone else would probably look at it and just be like, whoa, you know?
Yeah, told all the time that I need to stop being so hard on myself, but I think it's a natural part of what I do.
It's
Yeah.
probably what creates the level of amazingness that you've created, though. Maybe perfectionism is a term that could be used, but at the end of the day, if that's your art process and it gets you to where you're almost happy, then that matters to you. So no one else can really tell you whether or not something's good enough, I guess, can they? I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's yeah. I get in real poisonous cycles with my work and hate on everything I'm doing, and they're massive emotional journeys. So like that last kinner that I drew, I can't even tell you how many hours it took.
Mm,
Because I draw regularly, and I don't draw for the set amount of time each day, and I don't have a logbook of how many
yeah.
hours I've drawn. But like if you gave that commission to another artist, another pencil artist, they might be able to crack it out in, half the time, perhaps. There's a lot of people out there that can draw like me, if not better. But it's just the way my process works is I'm all over the show. And I might be juggling 2 or 3 works at any particular time, or I might be wanting into my framing or my gyotaku, and nothing's ever consistent. So it's yeah, that kind of was certainly a challenging work. But once you get the formula for, because it's just repeating itself over and over and over again, there's no massive drastic variation in the scales. For example, if you look at the bluefin tuna I just did, and
mm,
some parts of the body are very defined and very regular, whereas other parts are almost their scales are almost non-existent. And other times they almost overlap so much that you can't differentiate between one scale and the next. So there's so much diversity of textures and details that make life quite difficult. No two fish are ever the same. But with inner, like when you get down on that really minute level, it's all just in darks. The textures are very same. So that makes it quite easy. But a little spoiler, I guess, is the Kinner is the only one that I've done a grid for. So all other drawings I do, I just freehand them completely. So I'll just have my reference images, dozens of them. I might have one that shows the whole profile of the fish, and I'll map it all out and get my proportions where I'm happy to, and then just start going for it. So there's lots of discrepancies between my final work and the reference images, almost to the point that I've had fish scientists hit me up on where the lateral line drops, or people that are hard game fishermen have ID'd my tuna as a big eye and not a bluefin, which is my first tuna I drew. So there is some truth to that with having it that I didn't know about. But yeah, it's the kinda, I drew the grid on the reference image, and then you draw a larger grid on your paper and transfer what's in that grid to that grid. So I use that process as a starting point for that kinda just to get the overall placement of the individual spines within reason. But because there's no other way I could do it. I wouldn't be able to pick up my pencil and freehand
Yeah.
that grid. I did with the paua. The paua's all the algae and all the myriad of textures in there. That was all freehand, so I just went for it, and it just ended up becoming like you're just drawing abstract shapes all over the place. But the Kinna is the only book that I've done with Chris, and it doesn't sit well with me that I used it for that, but it was the only way I could. So sorry, guys. I used it.
I don't think there's a sorry needed in any
Nah.
way. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, just
Nah,
trying to figure out how to even
process.
start that. So Tim, if I wanted to create a gyotaku, is it gyotaku? How do you help us?
Yep.
Teach us.
Gyotaku. If we wanted to print one,
Yes.
what would I need to be able to go about doing that? Have you got some hot tips on how to start out?
Yeah. So with gyotaku, traditionally done on washi, which is paper. Could be rice paper, could be mulberry paper. You can buy these from Gordon Harris art shops, but the tricky thing with paper is that it's quite hard to get it to do what you want it to do on a three-dimensional fish. This is where I tripped up early on, and this is where I take my hat off to the masters that do it with paper and get good results, because it's tricky. I used to do it with paper quite a bit, and just couldn't get good results. And I was just burning holes in my wallet because you're having to print a fish multiple times, and you just end up burning holes in your wallets. I gave up for quite a while and didn't do it for a couple of years, and then I saw someone doing it on cotton, and gave that a crack. So there was just calico from Spotlight, and that's pretty cheap, pretty accessible, and you could buy quite large quantities of it for a relatively inexpensive price, and had good success because it could mold to the contours of the fish much easier. So just use calico. Heaps of different fabrics you can use. Use cotton edge decks, cotton quilt maker's fabric, anything that's just nice and thin with a fairly tight weave works well. And then in terms of the brushes, you can use any sort of brush you want, but I use Japanese hake brushes, and they're made with goat hair, so they're quite fine bristled, and they don't leave big streaks throughout the ink when you're brushing it on. And they're relatively cheap, just a couple of bucks from any art store as well. So that's hake brushes, Hake. And then in terms of the ink, a good starting point is just using Indian ink. So the big thing is using non-toxic Indian ink. Indian ink, theoretically, just a carbon-based ink. Gyotaku traditionally done with an ink called sumi ink, which is a carbon-based ink as well, made from like soot from burnt trees. And I hope I'm right in saying that. I could be wrong. From my understanding, yes, carbon-based inks. So yeah, I just started off using Indian ink, calico, hake brushes, and just went for it.
Wicked.
And I'm still learning. Like, I'm still figuring things out. Like, I'm no master of gyotaku. I just dabble with it alongside my drawings, and I go down rabbit holes, especially during summer and spring when I'm diving a lot and I've got fish around me all the time. I'll go handy with gyotaku and just try and get better and better and better. And that's the trick, I think, with it. If you want to get good at it, you have to keep doing it because you're always figuring things out. And there's so many variables at play, like so many that it makes it sometimes unbearably frustrating to do. So how the weight of your fabric, how much ink, how little ink, how much ink you pull away from the fish before you print, how fresh the fish is, how much moisture is left on the fish, how much pressure you apply. It's just never ending. So the finesse is getting those small, tiny discrepancies dialed in to get the perfect print. And every fish prints differently. So heaps of ups and downs, and it's an emotional journey as well.
Nice. Have you ever tried squid ink? Is that a thing? Do people use squid ink?
I haven't done it. I've seen some people do it for sure. I just don't know how it holds up in terms of longevity.
Okay.
I don't know. I've only ever used squid ink in the culinary way. But yeah, I think it'd be quite expensive to use.
Okay.
Especially if you want to do quite a few gyotaku prints. Yeah.
We both loved having a go at gyotaku with you last year, and I actually tried it a few times since, and it was a little bit like a 5-year-old's finger painting my first few fish. I'm going to be honest, but it's fun to learn, and I'm actually going to, hopefully, if me and Elise get some fish this weekend, I'm actually going to take some fish into my classroom because we're doing an ocean unit,
Awesome.
and like, obviously still trying to explain to them that I'll then take them home and eat them as well because I don't want them thinking I'm just using them for that. But we are going to have a go. So if me and Elise get some mau and some kuhuru and stuff, I'm going to get the kids in my class to have a little go on Monday. And I actually really like the idea of using colour, which I don't know if that's like horrific sounding to you because that's probably not the way you go about it. But I quite like the idea of using gold and colours and stuff. And yeah, but I meant to say too, I know we're sort of talking like everyone knows what gyotaku is, but is this kind of a good basic rundown for anyone who either hasn't seen your work or doesn't quite know what it is? We had here that it's an ancient Japanese technique, and was it used to ID fish species like before cameras and stuff were around? Is that correct?
Well, I like to say that it's nice to have some mystery in the world, that we don't have to know everything, because I don't know about gyotaku. I'm not an art researcher.
You're a doer.
I'm
you
a
do
doer.
the things.
So from my understanding, early 1800s, Japanese fishermen used it to record fish species. There was no cameras, so that's how they had evidence, I guess. And also I was told early on that it was a way of them displaying their fish species at the fish markets. The fishmongers would have gyotaku displayed around. Yeah.
I remember Laura actually when she gave it a good go. What fabric did you use again, Laura?
Oh, so I like to save money, and I had a bed sheet.
Awesome.
She ripped up a bed sheet. Cost a piece to replace the bed sheet, but you know.
You don't use it anyway.
Yeah, don't even need that. Don't need a top sheet.
Yeah.
It's funny you talk about doing gyotaku in class because that's how it all started for me.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because when I was teaching art, and would drive into Wellington every day, and that was how I got eyes on the harbour to see what the viz was like all the time, because Wellington Harbour's pretty dirty, but every once in a blue moon you can get some nice viz in there. And I would go in at 6 a.m. every morning. Well, not every morning, but I'd go in there and I'd go get my diving fix, finish up at 7 o'clock, take the fish into school and would print them with the art class. And, I would stick with the black and white aesthetic. And I was a purist in that regard, but I had some kids will always evolve stuff in their own unique ways, and they will take an art style and make something completely different. So we're doing these gyotaku prints, and next thing you know, they pulled out the magazines and cut out all these eyes and we're collaging like up into their fish. It was great. It was such a laugh. Yeah.
That's quite cool. You could almost, I'm sure you've probably printed enough now, you could almost make a whole species book of fish of New Zealand just by prints.
I've certainly printed a few fish, but when it comes to my printing, I'm never happy with them.
Mm.
I'll keep printing until I've got the perfect prints, which will never happen. But yeah, there's certainly been, I've ticked off quite a few different species in New Zealand, most recreational ones. Don't really dabble too much with the larger fish. They can be pretty challenging. I did go to a one-based tournament up in Tauranga and had a crack at printing some game fish and learned very quickly that it's probably in the too hard basket.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a 80-kilo stripey, and it had rigor mortis had set in on its pec fin, so you're trying to hold the pec fin down whilst getting to moving around that, whilst you're dealing with all the flies in 30-degree heat, drying really quick, and not having enough fabric to do multiple prints, and it was woeful. But mahi worked quite well. Yeah.
Is that because it's flatter, or is it like a flatter fish easier than rounder ones?
Totally. Yeah. Starting point, I say to people, just grab a flounder.
Okay.
John Dory. Barracuda, print pretty good.
Really?
Yep, totally. Yep.
Flat,
anything quite flat work well. But then snapper, their scales and bodies will print really, really well. So you can often get quite good results from them with their, doing it first time. But the tricky thing with snapper is that their heads change so much as they grow older, from fish to fish. And if you ink too much of the head, and when you pull that print away, it's going to change the whole look of the snapper and make it look comical. So you have to be liners and have some control around that to get a print that still looks like a snapper. That's often the biggest challenge, is creating prints that still look like a fish and don't look like animated cartoons of them, because that can happen.
Well,
And the
5-year-old
eye as well. I remember you said don't do the eye when we did the we had a big eye, didn't we? That we printed. Or
we had you did a blue nose.
a blue nose. Yeah, okay. And
they got similar. Yeah.
you said to leave the eye and you paint the eye afterwards, is that right?
Yeah, so I always leave the eyes uninked and then take good reference photos of the eye. So when it comes to you detailing the print afterwards, you're not just putting a black dot in there.
Oh, I think that's what mine ended up with.
Because fish eyes are all different. And even though, like, with all the snapper I printed, like, trying to draw or ink back in an eye of a dead fish versus a live fish, and there are heaps of variables that can make it look quite strange and odd. So I'm always photographing eye references and always have my derelict prints on hand. So when I am detailing the eyes of a snapper or whatever it might be, I will use some of those derelict prints to test out what eyes I'm going to use. because there's been plenty of good prints I've done that haven't made the cut because I messed up the eye.
But you're not hard on yourself.
No.
No, I'm not.
Perfection and the imperfection, is, like, say I caught a nice big snapper and I wanted to treasure it forever. Do I send it your way, or what would you like with that? Can people on here be like, yo, Tim, can you print my fish?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, gyotaku opens itself up quite nicely for commissions in comparison to my drawings, which my drawings are like 5-month projects, easy, and with all my to-dos on my to-do list, yeah, having openings for commissions can be quite tricky in that world. But
Yeah.
with gyotaku, yeah, for sure, I've had people send me their fish, but I am based in Kapiti, and sending a fish down to me still fresh can be quite a logistical challenge. But that being said, like, I always sort of compare it to taxidermy, where, a taxidermist is going to be sent all the trophy animals from all the hunters around the region, and they make their magic with that. But for me, spear fishing is about, if you're going to shoot fish, it should be for sustenance. That's primarily why we're harvesting. And if you get a fish that you want to remember, for sure, like, gyotaku lends itself really nicely for that way of holding on to those memories. But people are shooting trophies and sticking them in their freezer and going, "Oh, I want to get it mounted, but maybe I'll get a gyotaku done of it. I'll just leave it in the freezer for a bit longer until I figure out what I want to do with it." If I've got everyone around the country doing that and sending me their fish that have not necessarily been looked after or cared for, the way that they should be to retain their eating qualities, that's quite a dark place I've seen myself venturing into. You just be from around the country.
Especially when I presume that you're trying to, like, celebrate biodiversity by making your art, and, like, I've had somewhere else that I researched about, it's about the ecological respect and stuff for you. So I guess that doesn't really sit right with, if you're trying to celebrate biodiversity, if a bunch of people are stashing uneaten fish in their freezer to make art, that's not really
I mean, I've certainly done it in the past, and you've got to put yourself in some dark places to figure out where you stand and what you want to be about. But yeah, I stand by, like, if we harvest from the oceans, it should be for sustenance. That's the primary reason. But if you can transform that fish into art as well and fully utilize it, be able to use the bones for stock and be able to use the excess waste that goes into your garden to feed your vegetables, and use every morsel of that fish for sustenance, and then be able to make art from that too. That's a win-win. I think that's an absolutely respectful way of paying homage to that fish.
Choice.
100% agree. I think I personally think everyone I've ever talked to about your art before I even knew you, that's a lot of the comments that I'd heard, was like how different it is to not only, obviously you've got your graphite and your pencil skill is something you're well known for, and like you said, labours uncounted hours for something like kinner is a very different thing to gyotaku. But I guess if you're someone who loves the ocean, and there's that hybrid between trophies and being proud of catches, but also hunting and fishing and things for sustenance, I guess it's a pretty special little niche in the middle there, being able to do it in like a respectful way that actually doesn't, like you say, go too far on that. And I think a lot of people have commented that how special it is. It's someone who's actually a hunter and a spearo who understands that cycle, and is making art of those things that we all appreciate, because there does tend to be those groups of people that I know it's very stereotypical, but I think I've met a lot of people like this when I was at art school, and that tend to not be into hunting and fishing or don't eat meat in those art areas of people. And then some of the people that fall into the hunting and the fishing stereotypically often don't see art as something that can be merged. So I just think it's quite cool when people have commented on how they love that you're a Spearo making art about, marine creatures. That's just kind of the bit for me that I've just found really interesting, because usually those groups of thinking seem to be quite separate.
Yeah, a lot of people say to me, like, why do you draw what you draw? And it's like, well, I draw the shit I'm into, the stuff I love, like art can be pretty wanky at times.
Yeah.
And it can be, pretty elite. And, I think making art that you resonate with is the main primary goal. That's, you want to be invested in what you're making. There's nothing worse than taking on commissions that you just butt heads all the time. I couldn't stand being a graphic designer or someone that works essentially for other people, what they're meeting their needs. But I sort of fell into this wonderful hole of doing art that other people can resonate with. It was never my plan to make art to tick the boxes for other people. It was all about doing things that I would get satisfaction from and I would get, get gratitude from. But I'm very, very lucky and very privileged that a lot of people also see my art as something that they resonate with. And I certainly don't take that for granted whatsoever.
Yeah, and without sounding woo-woo, I think I talked to you about this about the expo about, I don't know, I won't even repeat my weird question because I can't remember, but Elise would laugh as she was there or something around, I thought I could feel different energy in different artworks. But on a practical level, without sounding like a woo-woo, I do think like it's very obvious to anyone like how much effort, time and passion goes into your work, and you can tell that you have not made things that you just think are going to sell or look good, or you're talented, oh great, I'll make this. You can tell that you have chosen that thing and you care about how you are portraying it. I mean, that's my 10 cents, but I just think that's a rare thing in art.
Yeah, I've always wanted, like, people would say to me, like, what's your end goal? And I'm like, well, I just want my work to keep getting better and I want my craft and skill to keep improving. So if you are someone who's investing in my artwork, that hopefully you can see the value that I put on it and the value I put in the craft, and that I'm not just some disconnected artist that's doing stuff because they think they'll make some money. It's like, this is my life and this is my world, and hopefully you seeing that when you're deciding to invest or deciding that you want my art on your walls, that is part of me as well. Even though it's just a fish, like it's not some whimsical abstract artwork that, that when you walk into a gallery and you see it, you are primed to have to feel or think or, vibe set of things. It's like, I just pull fish, it's simple as that. And I think I like the common man approach to making art. Like, I like stuff that everyone knows what it is, and it's not something that you have to, be a certain way or be a certain class to understand or appreciate. It's like, this is art for everyone. It's stuff that everyone in New Zealand can acknowledge and understand, and you don't have to be a certain level of intellect to be able to engage with it.
You can enjoy the aesthetics of marine life without needing to go to a whole bunch of art lessons about money, all that other stuff. It's really awesome. And I think that's why me and Elise wanted to get you on here, because we just kind of think that if we're talking to all these spearfishing people, like, it's just really cool to be able to celebrate you in this space rather than just, I'm sure you get celebrated a lot in art spaces, but to be able to celebrate you being in that niche of the guy who does the fish art, if that's how you want to simplify it. But yeah. So
yeah, I do. That's how people know me. You're the guy that draws the fish, eh?
that's me.
No, is that a print? Is that one of those fish ink prints? And I'm like, if they often say that with my drawings, and if I could print fish, if I could do gyotaku prints that look like my drawings,
Yeah.
I'd be the best in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry,
mean,
but
You're like, these are
to blow your
Mine's a-
trumpet, though, like, you have won awards. We had down here that you won the Imprint Exhibition Curators Award in Wellington for a large kingfish.
yeah. There
So
was
being,
a curated exhibition from an artist up the coast here called Hamish McCauley, and he asked me to be involved in that. And the thing with my gyotaku, I battle imposter syndrome every day. A lot of people battle imposter syndromes in whatever way they do. But for me, because I'm half Chinese on the other side of the world from Japan, dabbling with a Japanese technique that I've had no experience with over there. I've never even been to Japan. I've covered in Japanese tattoos and I'm not even Japanese. I feel like a massive fraud and I'm trying to do these gyotaku prints. So and to top it all off, that exhibition was a hand-selected range of printmakers from around the country, and I can't remember, maybe just Wellington. I'm like, oh, I'm not a printmaker. I just do these fish prints, and sure, it might be seen as a printmaking technique, but I don't know if my technique stands up against the level of skill and craft that's going on out there. I just painted a fish black and put some fabric on and gave it a little rub. Bob's your uncle. Here's the artwork.
just put some ink on it and gave it a little rub. That's all there is to it, eh?
No, it's a technique for everyone. It's surprisingly easy. I've done workshops before where I say to everyone at the start, you will probably make prints better than me. And they'll start printing and they'll have this amazing success, or they might have epic failures, but throughout the sessions, people are getting cool results. I'll say, oh, how do I get that result there in those scales? I really like how those scales to how do I get that again? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or they'll pick out of my print and say, how did you get the head like that? I want to get my one to look like that in that area. I don't know. You just have to keep printing and see what happens. It's the magic of it is you can't control it. Whereas my drawing, every mark I put on,
Yeah.
and every mark I take away, it's full control.
Very intricate.
Whereas the gyotaku, I often get worse at it. I don't necessarily get better, and I don't always improve. Sometimes I regress, but that's the beauty of it. Is it's so you never know what result you're going to get, and it's so unpredictable. And when you do get success, it's amazing, but sometimes you can never recreate it. So it's you have to cherish those little moments of magic because you never ever get them again. No two prints are ever the same. So that's the really exciting thing about gyotaku, but at the same time, that's why I hate it. Same time. It's it can captivate you, but then it can also spit you out and throw you on your ass and say, see you later.
a little bit like diving.
Yeah.
Totally.
And you're always in pursuit of, the magical dive or those epic scenes or those epic creatures, but some dives are just trash.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. The exhibition, that imprint thing, I was taken by surprise. I didn't think my work was award worthy. I was just pumped to have a kingfish on the wall. But it was quite a large statement piece, and it was the first thing you saw when you walked in the wall in the exhibition. And I kind of was a bit taken back that I won that award, and I was very chuffed and very humbled. So
That's very cool. Especially if you just cruise into the art world, and you go to an exhibition and everyone's sometimes can get a bit funny about a very obscure piece, but you just cruise in and there's this kingfish or a big fish on the wall and you're just hell yeah. So
there's
good.
when you think about it, it's pretty macabre. Something that's dead, and painting ink on it and giving it a rub. It's like
Celebrating the death.
it is pretty crazy. But yeah, like when I did that boat show recently, and I was doing demos, and I just kept producing bad prints, and I sort of had to say to everyone, they always say, "Oh, mate, no, my eyes are pretty bad," but like often it's those moments that make you appreciate the ones that are on the wall that have worked out. It's like as much as it's a very easy process and quite simple when it's nuts and bolts, it's there's a lot of a lot of intricacies and a lot of variables that are quite challenging to overcome and master. And I'm on this journey of learning, and the gyotaku I'm producing at the moment is just where I'm at in my journey. And I have grand plans of traveling in the coming years to print some international species and share what I know, and also go to Japan. I'll learn from some of the masters and probably be prepared to be told to throw out everything I know and start all over again, because you're doing it wrong.
Get told you're a gyotaku cowboy by some actual Japanese people, eh?
Yeah, totally. What a weekend warrior. Get out of here, mate.
No, that was one of our questions later on, was kind of like, did you have any sort of dream trips or dream fish to go and print? But I guess that kind of makes sense. Is anything new, anything outside of New Zealand, probably?
Yeah, like I've drawn a couple of international species. I've got a couple on the go at the moment that have been on the go for some time. But yeah, I drew the mahi-mahi, even though we get them in New Zealand. I drew the yellowfin as well. So I guess they've got some international status. But in terms of moving forward, like I've had a few people hit me up and say, can you draw a jewfish, or can you draw triggerfish, or whatever it might be, just around the place. And I could, for sure, but I've always said to myself, from now on, I want to be, if I ever do draw an international species, it has to be one that I've engaged with, that I've actually experienced. So I'm not just doing it token from the other side of the world. Like as having it, I could have the best reference images in the world, but be able to, it's not about me going over there and killing one, but to have one in front of me so I can at least photograph it and touched it. At least for me, there's a bit more integrity in it.
Yeah.
It's very, completely detached and be making art, and it's sort of like, who do I want to be engaging with my works? Do you want to engage with works from someone that doesn't even know what they're doing, or doesn't even know what the fish is? That's sort of where I'm coming from now. No harm other people doing it, but for me, that's like a funny parameter I've set myself, is that I have to have engaged with it if I wanted to do it justice. All the drawings I've done so far have pretty much been things that I've been able to source or be sent to me, or things that are within my realms as a Spearo in Wellington. But that list slowly grew a lot bigger when I wanted to draw some of the weird and wonderful things from, the dark depths, and started having on people sending me stuff that, there's no way I could be spearfishing some of those fish,
Well, even like just doing a print, like if you were to print a trumpeter, and like how to print the stripes on them, or like how to, like you've done like some bories before, like with a female bory, the way they have their stripes, so
so
how do you do that?
I've had some good success with trumpeter. The first, I always just do a couple of prints and then see how they go. But then the tricky part is, how do you get those intricate details? And, like a John Dory, I'll put the spot back in afterwards.
Okay.
But with the trumpeter, for example, in the moon, I printed a moonfish once. That was pretty cool.
You printed a moonfish?
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah. To me. It was a small one. It was only like 13 kilos, I think, but still pretty cool. but you can always manipulate the ink when it's on the fish
Okay.
to some degree. Like you can wipe away spots, or you can have more ink in one part and remove ink from others to give you some gradients and give you some lights and darks. But as soon as you start, like you got the print done and you start working the eye back in and get a brush and like put a whole lot of dots around the place, like some of those masks can seem a bit forced. So I always tread with caution about how much detail I want to put in or how little I do. Sometimes I'll just step right back and say, nah, you're not going to have any of those characteristics of that boarfish because, I don't know, just leaving it as the pure process of the gyotaku. I did a couple of rainbow trout and a salmon recently.
Okay.
Those spots all over their back, you can put those in quite easily without it looking too naff. And that quite. There are some artists around the world that will use the initial print of gyotaku as sort of like a foundation.
Okay.
Then they'll paint all the colours back in and transform it into like a fully fledged blown painting. And that's awesome. The results are amazing. Each their own, and art's always going to evolve and transform. But for me, like, the challenge is how do I get that perfect print from that raw process? And if I put too much detail back in or fill in too many gaps or change too much, it's not a good enough print. And then I'll go back to the process to try and improve. But I'll never get the perfect print. That's the reality of it. And if I do, I'll never get it again. So,
What led you into, I just think it's really interesting that you use ethically sourced New Zealand native timber and stuff like that. Has that become another element of, I guess, the controlled part? So you're talking about all these kind of uncontrollable variables, but where did your kind of love for using native timber and framing them yourself and stuff kind of come in? Because that's a really awesome element to your work I didn't know about till the last expo.
yeah, so the framing sort of came about because when I went full time, which was maybe 3 years ago, I picked in teaching and decided to go full time. And when I made that decision, I had to sort of think a bit more smarter about how am I going to make it viable. And one of the things I wanted to learn was picture framing, because framing was my biggest expense. And I needed to start being a bit smarter about how I tackled the overall business side of things. And so I started with videos and started giving it a crack. Like I didn't do woodworking at school or anything like that. I just sort of picked up this idea that I wanted to get into framing and gave it a hone and see what happened. But it turned out to be a never-ending rabbit hole that I'm still on, and it's become an addiction, and I'm a hoarder now. I've become a wood hoarder. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of different things I can talk about this. Like, I wanted my frames to be just as much a talking point as the art itself, and for a lot of people, that's like they just care about the art. But like my frames, like I made a decision just to use native timber framing because it seems crazy that we're buying in all this prefabricated molding from across the globe that's just crappy pine that's laminated or lacquer coated, and it's got no character to it. Whereas there's this amazing wealth of timber here that's stashed in under people's houses, or to be firewood, or things that have been storm damaged or drought felled trees, or logs that are being reclaimed from the waterways up and down the country. Like all this beautiful timber that is full of character and full of history that you can't put a price on. I'm putting a price on it, but it's it's pretty overwhelming when you start looking and appreciating all those characteristics of those timbers and making a frame out of it. That when you compare that to something that you just buy off the shelf from wherever as a picture frame, there's no contest. But it's certainly set me on this rabbit hole of learning and trying to figure out how to do it properly and how to do it right, and I'm still figuring out a lot of things as I go, and it's like that imposter syndrome all over again with like the printmaking. Like I feel like an imposter because I'm not a trained picture framer, but I am on this trajectory of trying to make my frames to a point where they hold their own against professional framers. So I'm using acid-free internals, I'm using conservation grade art glasses, and trying to make frames that you will never see anywhere else. So no two frames are ever the same, and to make sure it's made with timber that's got a story behind it and you'll never be able to see anywhere else. Yeah. People come to the exhibitions and they're like, look at this art. I'm like, look at the frame though.
Have you seen
Let
the
me tell you
frame?
what the frame. I was outside on this brand wood.
Funny you say that because I think my mum noticed it both. So my mum worked in forestry and she came last year. And so when she described you, she was like, oh, you know, kind of the fish art thing, but she remembers the frames. So
Cool.
it's not, I think you're right. It's about, I think it's really cool that you're taking kind of that element of putting yourself under a challenge, but also creating that very different element to your artworks, that the framing can be its own art and be part of the artwork completely. Like that's a really special aspect.
Yeah, I mean, like my atom, I always say I'm a one-trick pony, and I'll just try and do one thing well. So there's not much room for me to grow and evolve because I'm on this, again, like on a trajectory of illustrating fish species, and I don't see myself deviating from that whatsoever. But picture framing has sort of given me that aspect that I can now learn a new skill and try and develop it and refine it and have some fun and play with some variation within it. But yeah, also at the same time, like I want to up the fact that there's the maker's mark on every part of it, you know, and then you're not, you know, it can be a bit of a kick in the teeth. Like I always find it's funny when someone gifts you an unframed print, you know, because then there's this expectation you now need to go get it framed.
Yeah.
And picture frame can be expensive, you know, so it's like a gift that is going to cost you money to get framed. It's like a funny thing that I've always thought about. I've got no problem with people buying unframed prints. You know, people don't have to buy framed prints or frames like they can frame them however they want. But I wanted to be able to offer people an option where they get the whole shebang finished, done, presented, without the hassle of having to go down the path of going down choosing what options, waiting about 8 weeks before it's done. You know, that was one of the main motivators for me to get into framing. But then it just so happened that I stumbled across the native timber aspect of it, and then that put me on this path of creating frames that you'll never see anywhere else. You know, with purity moth holes riddled throughout the wood, or river tortola that's been submerged since the 1800s when Europeans first arrived and started logging up north. Or it could have been a naturally felled tree that's been underwater for thousands of years.
Right.
I got some swap matai from Whana in Te Awamutu, and he was looking for metal on his dairy farm and found a couple of logs and got those milled up, and that was all covered under pumice. So that tree would have been knocked over by a Lake Taupo eruption, which was 1,800 years ago.
Yeah.
So who knows how old that mature matai was before that event. But
this is my
fish.
This is my volcano, my Lake Taupo explosion frame. Like, how cool is that? Even the Pirene moth, they live in there for like 6 years before they become a moth.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So like I have become an absolute tree nerd.
Yeah.
And like I spend a lot of time in the bush and I love just gawking at trees, and even though I'm using native timbers, like I don't condone the demise of our natural forests. And I talk about imposter syndrome, and I also think about, maybe I could be approaching this whole use of native timber in a more Mātauranga Māori lens, but like, I'm just on this journey of learning, and I need to figure out where to go to next and how to make my story more ethical and more, you know, more conscious of what it should be, make it right. I don't know. Yeah.
That's great.
I
Sounds
get
like you're on a good
where
you're on
you're
a good
going.
journey. Yeah. You're going the right
I think
way.
there's definitely a lot of
Thanks.
parallels and things like spearfishing, because and not to act like I know everything, it's just because my brain goes art spearfishing back and forward as you're talking, and it's like when you talk about those mātauranga Māori processes, even like with the spearfishing side of being conscious of how we collect and where we take from and the different species that have pressure and marine reserves, all that kind of stuff. Um, it is, I feel like you think you can be doing well, and then you like re-educate yourself or you relearn something and you look back and go, oh man, something I did a year ago, 2 years ago, last dive, last artwork, whatever it is. I feel like it'd be pretty weird if you weren't kind of like improving your own knowledge as you went along all the time. Like it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like that being your own worst critic. Like I think in my game, there's nothing worse than being stagnant and being content with what you've done. Like you have to just like that self hate of my artworks and that poisonous cycle I get myself in. Like even though, I mean, I use that as a tool to help me improve, and I think that's how I move forward. It's just, I take that and I put it to use in an effective way.
Mm.
Yeah. The anxiety of failure drives me.
On a serious note, no, we do have a few
Well, that's
questions
true.
around like well-being and stuff like that. Would you say, just from a few things you've said, would you say things like going into the bush and hunting, going spearfishing and being in those ocean environments, like is that a huge part of your holder and well-being for you? Not just as an artist, but like as a person? Like
100%. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've just had a couple of big weeks recently. I've spent a whole week on the road last week driving down at Bluff. And I crammed it all in a week, and man, I was like just sitting in the car seat all day long and had no time for any sort of exercise and just ate shit and was like, oh, and then I came back to a week of work, well, doing my stuff, and just needed to get out and you just know when your body craves that nature.
Mm.
It's when you get fed that, it fills your cup and fills your soul, and it's like just a big weight off your shoulders. And I feel very privileged that I can be aware of when I need that stuff, and I have the means to do it. Not everyone has the is lucky enough to have those avenues. So anything that people do to help enable others to identify those and know the signs and to have a toolkit at their disposal to utilize and do when they need it, I think is valuable.
Yeah, 100%. Like you say, it's a good reminder when I hear people say that we're lucky. I mean, I know we are, and I try to be grateful, but I think it's like you say, not everyone has access to being close to ocean environments, to being able to get on boats, to own spearfishing gear, to buy a wetsuit, like all that kind of stuff. So, it's a good reminder that we are all very lucky to enjoy it and be able to access it. And yeah,
When I was when I first started out spearfishing, and I got a GoPro, I had a YouTube channel.
Oh yeah. Is it still floating about?
There's probably a few videos still around. It was called Insatiable Pursuit.
Insatiable Pursuit.
Yeah, and it was a 3-part thing. It was like me with the diving and my brother with fly fishing and my uncle with all his bush cameras up in Seeker country.
nice.
And we'll just amalgamate all this footage and just put these videos together. And like it was just we're just on this one way train of just creating content and making cool shit. And we had a blog online, and I'd check in at the time, and I'd put my GoPro on my head and like power raviolis and all sorts of stuff. And it was this weird little thing. It was sort of at the same time when Sam was doing his Wild Fox productions. I don't know if you ever remember those videos. And Sam Wild first started doing his videos. Anyway, I very quickly realized that, I was making all this content. I had to go out diving to get content, and I had to go out and shoot some stuff to get some footage because that's what people wanted to see, and that likes, and that's what was getting engagement. But it didn't take me very long to realize that, to question who I was doing it for, and not diving for yourself. You should be harvesting for yourself and your family, So that pulled ties from that little venture very, very quickly, and I haven't worn a GoPro since.
Really?
Because of like, nah.
You don't look back on your own stuff? Like, I spent ages. I barely put stuff up online, and Laura's always like, "Give me the footage, man!" Like, but I'm like, I spent hours like looking at it. I'm like, oh, memories, But I'm like, one day I should do something with all of this. Like,
I've got 5 camera cards from only having a GoPro since December because I was like, jealous at least get to the cool footage. But have I done anything with like much of it? It's like I've probably uploaded like 5 or 10% of it. I look at it on the actual GoPro.
Yeah.
But it is different, like even being in the other Tonga recently, and it's like it does change my energy to like interacting with the creatures. I'm worrying about what I'm filming and what's being seen, and then I'm going and thinking about what I did or didn't get. Like I had an experience where my camera was dead and I was surrounded by hundreds of fish I've never seen. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. They were just like sleeping in groups. And I was like, oh, I don't have this on GoPro. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm here. Like, I'm experiencing it with one of my best mates in the country. Like, it's imprinted in my memory. But it's like, there's
it's like
one line.
Like when you see something, like I remember a few years ago when there was a southern right whale calf in the Wellington Harbour. Walking along the waterfront, and it was literally, if you've ever been to Wellington waterfront by Te Papa, and you could literally jump off the wharf onto the whale's back. It was that close.
Oh.
By the man statue?
Yeah, a bit further down from there, yeah.
Oh, wow,
It was that close that you could see all the barnacles on its back, and everyone's there looking and observing this moment through their phones. It's like, just put it down and just focus. The only downside to it is when I'm older and, I've got dementia and I can't look back and share.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not.
Also, I think it's quite captivating when people can communicate their stories without having to show it,
Yeah. Storytelling is a bit of an art, isn't it? I don't have that art. Even like, it's an interesting
when you have dementia, we will send you this podcast.
Yeah.
So you can meet yourself from 2025.
You'll be like, I like that guy.
This is waking up in this creek. He's so full of himself.
Absolutely not. Does that guy do prints? Does that guy draw fish? Oh, that's funny.
It was funny how that all sort of changed, like going out to that drive to get content, to get new footage. Like, you turn it on your head and you're doing it for yourself,
Yeah.
That's what it should be for.
All of the coolest moments I've had in the ocean, I haven't had my GoPro for. There's been lots of other good moments. I didn't have it for whales, I didn't have it for manta ray. Like, I'm like, oh, well, I know if I forget my camera, then something great's going to happen. Like,
all the footage I was getting, like, maybe this was pre-drawing, this before I was drawing what I do now, but maybe in some way it was me just trying to satisfy that creative itch.
Yeah.
Learning how to edit footage and compiling them all together into videos and that, and sort of like on the back of the, mentality stuff, it's probably somewhere down deep is this creative urge that I have to make stuff. But if anyone said to me, do you have to make, I think I could survive without making things, but probably not. Probably something deeper ingrained in me that things.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting, that
And I
one.
guess art can be quite a solo thing. We've got like a few questions about things like describing your ideal dive buddy and things like that. Like, would you say, I'm just kind of speculating, but would you say when you spearfish, you also see it as quite a solo, alone time experience, or do you really enjoy like the social, having dive buddies, being with other people, and enjoying those experiences like with others?
Yeah. So being a full-time artist and working from home, I'm on the back of a teaching career where I was surrounded by people all day, every day. I always thought I was going to really miss that social interaction. But I find that I'm sweet working on my own. But at the same time, like I also thought that being a full-time artist, I would lose a lot of those. I think I've developed more as a social, my social interaction skills, I think have gotten stronger since becoming like an independent solo artist versus when I was teaching. Like I was so shit scared of getting up in front of teachers and presenting something or getting up in front of a class that I've never taught before, and there'd be so much social anxiety. Whereas now it's like it's non-existent, which is bizarre. But anyway, to answer your question, yes, so it is I do value my dive buddies that I have, and that we've got a quite nice close knit group of of mates up here on the coast that we go diving with when the season's right and the weather's right, and as much about talk and banter as it is actually getting in the water, but yeah, and same with hunting too. Like it can be difficult in the bush when you got a few people with you, so it's about you know often getting away and being on your own, but it's the debriefs and the pre-trip plans and the banter before you go and the banter afterwards, and all that sort of stuff that makes it good and real. Yeah, which I miss when I do things on my own. Like if I'm going to go for a hunt and I know I'm going by myself, I often doubt myself before I go. Like the night before or when I'm packing all my gear, I'm like, do I really want to go?
Mm.
Or I wake 3 o'clock, I'm like, I could probably just work tonight. Or I'll get real anxious about being in the bush alone. And somewhere new that I haven't been before, like I'll get real skeptical about it. But if I go with someone else, even though we might split up and go and meander different basins of whatever, like you have so much more confidence being with someone else, and that's sort of at the same time being in the water, even though you might be doing drift dives separately or whatever, like just knowing that there's someone nearby boosts your self-esteem and your self-confidence immensely. Yeah.
How do you push through that? Like when you go hunting by yourself in the bush, like how do you push through that anxiety of being out there alone?
Suck it up.
Suck it
That's
up. I'm just scared the whole time. So
Feel the fear.
Well, I went out yesterday and I was like, I got in at maybe 8 o'clock. And I was out by 3.
Yeah.
And I had like another 4 hours of light probably that I could have gone and moseyed around. And I just, throughout the whole day, I was like, oh, I just want to go and have a shower.
Yeah, okay. Well, you gotta do that for yourself too.
Yep, all the time. And then as soon as I get in my car, start driving home and I'm looking out over the ranges, I'm like, I want to be back in the bush. It's crazy. When I'm in there, like I'm doubting it, and then when I'm out of it, I just want to be back in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know how I push through it. You just have to keep
Get
going.
into a
I
mode.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love being in the bush. Just as much as I do being in the water. It's quite different, and different skills and different challenges, and but it still ticks a lot of the same boxes. And when the water's shit, I can go in the hills and still get my fix. Yeah.
Perfect.
And if you when you are with your dive buddies, how would you describe like a good dive buddy if you are more with someone? But having those yarns and having the energy and the banter, would that kind of be the keys to?
Yeah, you just have to have mates that are always keen, and you just vibe the same. You vibe the same. You want to target the same fish. You want to do the same sort of diving. if plans change, everyone's all good about it. There's no one's out there just wanting to meet their own goals or do their own thing. It's just a collective day where everyone's on the same page. That's important.
Mm. Do you reckon
And
that?
being able to have piss taken out of you. That's important.
Yeah. That's a good thing to learn.
Was that humility to have humility? What is it? Hold on. Yeah, being able to just be humble and
Yeah.
not be a dick.
Yeah. Don't
If
take
I'm
it
feeling a bit too
personally.
special, Tim, I like to make sure I go for a dive with Elise, catch up with Elise, and make sure she gives me good tuning up.
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, it's
We
good
do it
though.
for
Like
each other.
we give each other shit.
Yeah.
But there's
When I
a
hear
fine
her
line of
through
like,
vomiting through the snorkel, then I'm like, what's up?
exactly.
Things like, yeah, it's just a
Nah,
lot.
we
She's
always-
actually she's a very supportive buddy when I'm sick, but it is good when people rip you out about stuff. Like I'm quite messy and I leave my line everywhere, and I need to be told.
It's
Yeah.
good.
To go with people that you can just have a laugh with and have a good time with.
Yeah.
It's as much about that as, that's as much about that as they can get in the water. Like sometimes we'll go out and we've had days where we've gone to launch the boat off the beach and we haven't even been able to get the boat started. It's still been a good day.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
The group of mates I've got, they're awesome. Like we often catch up every couple of months and have a good barbecue and that. And we did one day have we had a collective barbecue at our mate Josh's house, and Chris Marshall was there in that at Timon and a few of those lads, if you know some of them.
Mhm.
We all had a collective wetsuit measuring session. So we're getting some custom suits made up for us, the Alios suits.
Okay.
All those boys, that's what they died with, and only what they died with. And some of us younger boys that hadn't had an Alios suit before, were getting schooled up on how to measure ourselves for getting custom wetsuits made. So we're all a few beers in and having the lads get the tape measure out and measuring how long your inner thighs are and stuff.
Just measuring the wetsuit sizes, eh? Yeah.
Not scuppers, not for scuppers.
And then we regretted it when we added a few more centimetres around our biceps than that, and our suits were a bit saggy in some areas. But that was a good laugh. Yeah, no, good lads up here on the coast around Wellies.
Yeah. That's
We had
awesome.
some really cool dives actually in Wellington. We both did the nationals. It was held at Kapiti for the Women's Day. And we did a few other dives around like Macra and Lyle Bay, and I can't remember where else we went, but yeah, Wellington's it was really different.
I think we came down as well, like a few months before that, just for funsies, and we dove the harbour.
That nationals was pretty bad, huh? Like you didn't have the best conditions. It was pretty hard.
We had the best conditions on the Women's Day, sweet as, and then then it was awful for everybody else.
That's right. Yeah,
we were like, bye.
And we were like, we were Wednesday or Thursday, and it was like some of the best diving I'd ever seen at that point, because I'd only dived for about 1.5 2 years, and then a day or two later, the opens couldn't even run 2 days. So.
Yeah.
Did you get up? Did you get
yeah, that's where the women's was, Kapiti.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it was wicked. I loved it.
Where you went? Like, were you north or south?
I think we may have been north. I can't tell you. I can picture the exact reef, but I can't tell you where I was. Yeah. We're on the side towards land, the inner side of the island. We're down towards I guess we're probably to the south, actually. Because we were on the left-hand side of the island, if you're looking out to the island.
And there were two little weird islands with like a channel thing through it that had heaps of butterfish in.
Did you drift through the channel?
There was a rock.
I was
had to swim to the rock.
I didn't go all the way.
Yeah, cool. You would have been around Browns Island and that. Yeah.
Yeah, it rings a bell.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I have no idea where we were.
Yeah, I love Kapiti. That's my I mean, as much as I cut my teeth around Wellington and Titahi Bay and that, like all my diving now is out Kapiti. That's all where I want to go.
Wicked.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You never know where you could go out there, and down here we're pretty fortunate that the weather keeps us in check, and it doesn't get over ravaged. It's nature's best.
Keeps it plentiful for you.
Yeah. And like in the right seasons, like the diversity, it's pretty awesome.
Can't beat Wellington on a good day. I did live there for uni, and that has stayed in my brain. Oh, Wellington on a good day.
What do you
I think
think?
they say that about any town.
Yeah.
pretty much. Yeah. What does it mean to you to be a Spearo? There is no wrong way to answer that question.
I find that it's tough because it's beyond, you can't describe it. I don't think you can. It's, people say when they find out you're a Spearo, they'll give you a bit of shit, especially if they're rob fishermen. Like, you don't know what you're missing out on, mate. Like, you think you guys know it all, but mate, once you get underwater, it will change your world.
Yeah.
It will change your entire life and the way you look at it so much. Because I love the fact that spearfishing will just put you in your place, being in the water. And same as being in the bush and being in shit weather, or just being in the water, realizing how insignificant you are and how small you are. Just get on the rocks and have one small wave push you in. It's like,
Yeah.
we'll get humbled very, very quickly by nature. And I think that's such an important thing. That didn't even answer the question, I don't think.
did.
No, it honestly
Absolutely.
did. Like, you're organically, naturally talking about what that question brings up for you. So
Yeah.
that's good stuff.
It's like going back earlier about, forgetting the turmoils of the day. Like, our problems in our lives are just such a small blip. And all you need to do is jump in the water or jump in the bush to realize what's real and what matters.
Yeah.
And it's priceless.
Well,
Beautiful summary. Beautiful. Loved it.
yeah. We've got a little new section that's teamed up. It's called the Float Boat Final 5. It's a fast-paced questions, little quickie little lalas. So, what's your dream fish to print?
Butterfly tuna.
Butterfly
okay.
tuna.
Large scale pomfret. Yeah, those are some of the big ticket ones. Yeah. I've been on the hunt. I've been sowing seeds with so many commercial fishermen and so many commercial longliners, and they just forget about me. I'll give you artwork if you can get me a butterfly tuna, because they're not that.
Put the word out.
Yeah.
Put the word out. Get this man one of those Ika, please.
Butterfly tuna. Yeah.
Butterfly tuna for Tim Lee. Thanks. All right. Number 2 then. What ocean creature you'd like to see in the water?
Anything that's bigger than me.
Nice.
Because again, it's like, man, if you see, it doesn't even have to be bigger than me. Like, I saw a blanket octopus on South Kapiti today, and that was tiny. But man, just things that, again, put everything into perspective for you and humbles you. So things that are bigger than me, we get very, very quickly. It's like, don't mind me.
Don't mind me. Come through.
Yeah.
Your next dream or your dream spearfishing destination, where do you want to go?
I've always wanted to go to White Island. If it was somewhere close to home. Like, I've always wanted to go to White Island.
That's pretty achievable.
Yeah. It's not far from our place. Well, my house. Sorry, forget me and Lisa don't live in the same place.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the thing. Like, I've gone up and stayed with like Kent and that a few times, and gone out to the Cadelles, and it's like blown my mind it's their backyard for them,
Yeah,
you know.
it's amazing, eh? It's so cool that you have that, yeah.
So, yeah, something like White Island locally, I think, would be pretty cool.
Mm.
And then in terms of like overseas, I don't know, like I'd love to go back to Vanuatu. I went there before I was a Spearo, and I'd like to go back as a pretty on experience. I was just blown away by the clarity of the water and how much he saw in shallow depth. And that was just snorkeling like a numpty. And knowing what I know now with my skill set, I'd love to go back and really explore it. Yeah.
Nice. A little chefy question for you next. Your favourite New Zealand Spearo dish you like to make and or eat?
That I make as a Spearo.
Yeah.
Well, like a spear, some kind of fish that you spear that you're like, yeah, I love eating and doing
Oh,
something like that.
so growing up in the fish and chip shop in Chinese takeaway, my dad used to my dad's Chinese, and he used to do these tour groups. But back in the day, like a lot of Korean, Japanese, Chinese tour groups would come and jump on a bus and go around the country.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do it so much anymore, but one of these stops in Taupo would be at my parents' fish and chip shop. And I'd come in, my dad would do a big buffet style Chinese menu for them, and then they'd jump back on the bus and continue on their way. And one of the dishes he would always do was this dish with like a flounder where you'd crisscross score both sides of the flounder, you cover it in corn flour, then egg wash, then corn flour again, and then you deep fry it in the wok. Gets all crispy, fish balloons out, and all the crisscrosses all swell up and get real crispy yum. And then he'd make like a brown sauce with like oyster sauce, Chinese wine, soy, a little bit of sugar, shallots, spring onions, mushrooms, and then that would get bathed all over that, or the fish will be in that sauce. So I make that quite regularly, not necessarily with a flounder, but just any sort of white fish that I cut up thinly and do the same thing.
Yeah.
Corn flour, egg, deep fry. Whether it's the brown sauce or a sweet and sour sauce, sort of satay sauce, that's what I like to do. Yeah.
What do you call that? And other than yum?
Flounder and mushroom shallot sauce, something like that. I don't know. Something like that.
Yum. It sounds awesome.
Maybe need a bit of sashimi kingfish.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Dreamy. What, who do you think we should interview? Have you got a person you reckon would be good?
For good yarns.
Yeah. Anyone got a good,
Spearo yarns, obviously.
Got a story?
I don't know. I always have a good time listening to the Paul brothers. So, two of them most that I see quite regularly, Eddie Paul and Jerry Paul.
Okay.
Jerry from up north.
Yeah, I interview him.
Oh, okay. Sorry, he used to live in Wellington, eh? He's actually on our list to interview. I forgot he used to live in Wellington.
Yeah.
I've met him a couple times.
Most charismatic dude that, like, I went up, saw him last year or the year before when I did some gyotaku up at the Turner Centre up there in Kirikiri, and he'd only been there for like a year or two or something, but we went out for dinner or beers, and every person he walked past was like, "Hey, Jerry, hey, mate." And like, he had just got the whole community wrapped around his little finger up. Yeah. Like, he is the most, he would turn a room upside down with laughs and energy.
He's got spectacular charisma, that man. That is a very good reminder because he was on our draft list a long time ago from meeting him up north. But he's cool. We will
all the brothers are like that. So there's Connor, Steve, and Eddie, and Jerry. So four brothers, all Irish boys.
Oh, yeah.
all heroes, all real good divers and real humble dudes. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for talking with us tonight and taking time out of your evening. I know it's not always easy to get time, so We really appreciate that, Tim. Thank you so much. And I've
Uh,
learnt a lot, Marie. So,
my absolute pleasure, and thanks so much for letting me be involved. I think what you two girls are doing is awesome. It's great.
aw,
It's,
Yeah, and
thank
please,
you.
if you're ever up Auckland Ways releases or Bay of Plenty where I am near White Island, or we're in Willie's, we'll harass you.
Yeah.
yeah, well, we just need to get some people together that want to do some printing, want to go diving,
All right.
and we'll
Easy.
do.
Yeah. Let's do it. We have a Spearo Diaries night.
Everyone
Yeah.
just goes out for a dive and shoots a fish, and we just print them.
Sounds amazing.
Honestly, that's what sounds like my bloody dream day right there.
Yeah.
Let's
there
do
you
it.
go. We'll make it happen.
Awesome.
Here we have a quick note from Rob Harrison, who's going to talk about his new competition, Fish Bingo. We had so much fun last summer playing Fish Bingo in our club, Spearfishing Fundamentals, acquiring points, targeting different species, and of course, lots of friendly banter. Get out there this summer, get involved, download the app, and have heaps of fun getting in the water.
Introducing New Zealand's newest and also largest spearfishing competition, Fish Bingo. It's going to be the largest and most comprehensive, with 46 different species and categories, plus heaps of bonuses to go for. The points vary based on how difficult or more of a challenge it is to acquire each of the different species. If it's your first time ever, you get double points, so it's about giving new species a crack. There are really handy tips on every single one of the different species on how to target. There's some delicious recipes to have a crack at. The scoring's all done for you. It's got a leaderboard for individuals, but you can also compete on your own or within your club. So there's leaderboards within each club that register, but also there's a club versus club. So 6 or more people basically from a club sign up, you're competing against other clubs across New Zealand. It's going to be open from 1st of November to the 30th of April, and anyone can access it. There's no charge whatsoever. It's fishbingo.netlify.app. That's FISHBINGO NETLIFY All you got to do is get in there, sign up, register your details basically, and if you belong to a club, then add that. You can start claiming from the 1st of November. Why did we create it? Well, we really want to grow the sport. We want to support people giving it a crack at new species, doing that in a safe way, just expanding what sort of fish we all target, and actually supporting the community around a really cool new competition. There's going to be lots of banter on the forums. Get out there and give it a go. It's awesome.
Cheers for choosing to fill your ear holes with the insights with this creative human. We look forward to seeing what amazing mahi Tim continues to produce and capture from the ocean world that we love.
If you loved hearing this chat with Tim or discovering his work, please let him or us know. Share it with your Spearo pals. Till next time, toodaloo!